Hi, I'm Seamless, and today I'm going to show you how to make this sound. Hey. So, this is Faceplant, and Faceplant's pretty great. Before we get into that, though, I want to remind people that I am doing a sale on private lessons. If you've ever wanted to have a one-on-one Skype or Discord or whatever does video lessons, now's the time to do it. If you schedule them for the months of July or August, they are $40 an hour, which is different from the normal $150 an hour, which will return to when September comes around. The link in the description has more information on that if you want to have it. Anyway, let's talk about this dude. Also in the description is this preset, because this is just this preset. And wow, just this preset by itself was doing this to my CPU. Wow, why does this patch, which doesn't sound that serious, do that? And it's because of the poly button. So before we talk about that, let's talk about what's going on inside the Not FX. Let's turn out the Unison, turn out this. I should just do that, save CPU for a second. And lane 1 here is going into lane 2, which has some stuff doing. It's labeled pretty clear what it's doing. So I have to kill that too. Anyway, but I have saws and I have saws. So this is normally just your normal looking super saw pluck. I mean, this is just saws right now. Not doing much. One of them is an octave higher. I like how when you make the number of like unison changes, it actually shows you the phase change, like what it looks like in the waveform. So when you do stuff like use the blend or whatever, you can make an actual educated kind of like, I still want it to be a little bit toothy, but not so blended. And it's good to like actually see that there. And then this guy has a different, like, I'm being very bland about this because this is a super saw. Almost nothing is happening to this. There's yeah, so there's note changing on this dude, so like this is saying that the different notes in my chord have different values for it. And then yeah, the cutoff on this guy is just, this is the arrangement that means that like I can make the pluck go up and down, but it's also tied to where the sustain is on the envelope, so that when it goes to the high end there, it's not plucking above the cutoff, it's just going to the cutoff and staying there. And that's really the only modulation going on in here. Breathing. And then the poly happens. So, oh yeah, and I use a bit of Unison here too. Yeah, so what's up with the poly is that when you, much like I use the note modifier here to do modulator, to do the cutoff on the filter so that every note will have an actual filter kind of tunage to it, you could do that for everything. And you do that by turning on the poly button, and then it gives for each note in your chord their own version of the signal path, so that they're in there alone and one of them all by themselves. And then when you also have unison voices, I'm pretty sure it's also doing that for the unison voices. So I'm playing 3 notes in the chord, all of them have 3 voices in unison, so we're looking at, for every one of them, every like hit there, 9 independent chains. Like, they have all the same stuff in them. It's still a distortion, still the filter, reverb, and compressor, but they all only have one voice from one note in them, a whole bunch, and then all next to each other, and then all going into number 2 here to be back into one chain. Why this matters at all is because we're using typically bad stuff that wouldn't really work on a chord, like distortion. That was kind of loud, but what just happened there was I turned on the effects because I forgot they're off, and then when I turned on distortion there, we heard like the power chordy kind of like, we're playing guitar through an amplifier. And what do you think would happen if every one of those strings on your guitar had its own individual amplifier? That would sound like this. Clean. And that's sort of why this is beautiful. On top of just distorting, your mess that's coming out of here to sound cool. I'm also filtering it after the fact because it does bite it up kind of a lot, and I wanted to tame off that high end there. And it's also plucked, so just pluck it. And it's got lighter Q than this dude. And it's also tuned up. That's about the same, but it's a bit of a wider turn on the macro motion there, and that's so that we do actually get a little bit of the result of the distortion involved, but not a lot. I gotta learn to breathe when I talk. Damn. Breathe, Seamless. Anyway, on the reverb, so this is special. This is where Phase Plant wins super saws. So your typical chain for a super saw is you got your saw, you got your pluck, and then you put reverb after the pluck, and then you compress that mess so that the force of the real signal in the pluck blows away the bit of the in the reverb in the compressor, and it sounds nice. Thing is though is, well, in my opinion, I really like those like really solid, like not the warbly kind, not the warbly, like distorted, almost compressed kind of muddy mess. And why does that happen? Well, it's because we're getting phase cancellation through chords that is fast enough to sound kind of like low mid-range frequencies, and it's mud. It comes across as mud. And this gets rid of it completely because this reverb is on every single one of those notes and every voice in those notes by itself. Every one of them has their own reverb. And this is it right here. Like I could have put this dude in this chain and then it would have been just the one reverb. But because the fact that this reverb is on every note and every voice by itself, and then this also gets their own compressor, we can, this is the part that really kills me. We can compress them all differently because we can use the note value changer thingy to change the parameter per note, per voice in the chord. And that means we can compress the reverb tail to be perfect for every note so that we don't have to worry about that warbliness ever. We're basically layering as if we had done this with this signal chain, like one note 3 times every note, recorded it and layered it together, which would have been what you had to do this kind of thing before, which you totally could do before. It has tremendous benefit because the way we're working here is that the higher values have a lower threshold and also have a lower attack value and a lower release value, which means they're faster, and also compressed harder on the lower values, which or rather on the higher values, which matters because they are a lower level. So then in order to have the similar kind of textural impact as it did in low frequency dudes, if that's a goal you have, then you have to tune it to it, and that's normally impossible with a chord, with like a unified mess of a chord. But because we can do this poly processing, we can actually tune it to be special for every individual voice in the note, and that's awesome. And that's why this chord in particular can still sound so beefy. Despite being 2 octaves in the mid range, like it's low, but it's not high, but it has all the right values. It's not very muddy. It's not really doing it, and it's because it's essentially all being processed separately. It's like this is essentially interlayering. It's as if it is layered, but they all got their own different chains. And so to the fact that it is layered, fun ideas come across with that here from here now. Like for example, these different the note cutoff changed difference in the filter inside the original generation. All of those different filters actually get their own individual signal chain now, which means that the low frequency guys don't interact with the high frequency guys. And I could do fun stuff like, imagine most of the processing you would do that when it adds together too much into one signal chain, it just sounds bad. And imagine if you could separate that into as many signal chains as you wanted on the fly and then recombine them on the fly. I just like faceplant a lot. Yeah, anyway, if you have any additional questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Also, don't forget that I'm doing a sale on lessons. If you want lessons, there's a sale. Information, presets, all that in the description as usual. Have a nice day. Have just the nicest day where I will continue to breathe.